Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's episode of the Two Players, One Game podcast. Now, this is episode 2 of our podcast. This week, we're going to be talking about a beloved classic title from the Nintendo 64, Star Fox 64. And before we get into tonight's episode, as you may have noticed, we have a pretty sweet new logo for our podcast, and it's got me excited. Let's hand it over here to my good friend Stratabyte.
Okay, so my name is Stratabyte, and I am the co-host of the Two Players One Game podcast. And here with me we have Jake, the good man. And like Jake said, we're gonna be talking about Star Fox 64. It has been a staple and like a very, I don't know, like I want to say nostalgic, but also just like it's like heartwarming for me. But I know other people when we talk, and we're gonna get into this later. But I know it's like a tipping skill for some people. But for me, at least, it was like a game of, it was a game of nostalgia, and I fell in love with it. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started because I'm excited for this. By the way, before we start, Goodman, how are you doing?
You know, I'm doing pretty good. I'll be honest. Feeling a little exhausted this evening. It was an early morning today, but it was a definitely good day. Had a good week, and I am super excited. Pretty stoked
Oh
for
yeah.
our new podcast episode. Strat, how you doing tonight?
Yeah, no, I'm doing good, man. I'm just tired. And if you guys don't know, like I'm a school teacher outside of the podcast and outside of streaming, and I'm just soaking in the last week that I have off and everything like that. And pretty much what I'm going to be doing um, before I head back to work is to work on the podcast and everything like that. Because here's the thing, and you guys can let us know, but we would like to go and do these episodes once a week and all that stuff. And if that interests you, we're planning on doing these episodes once a week, Saturdays. Um, as far as we know, it will probably be Saturday during the day because that's gonna be easiest for both of us and everything like that. But we are, no matter what, we're kind of dedicated to pump out an episode for you guys once a week.
Yeah, and just like Saturdays, just like Strat said, it makes it a lot easier for us on our schedule. That way, when we record it on the weekend, we have plenty of time to also get the podcast uploaded to other places like
Right.
Spotify, or if we need to go in, make some quick edits or something, we have extra time to do that compared to what we do during the middle of the week. So that's why we were kind of discussing that over the past couple weeks, because the first episode we did was on a Wednesday night, and it was definitely a good turnout and everything. But just like for us, it would be we just kind of think that weekend time frame would just be
Right.
a little easier for the both of us.
Exactly. And also, Jake mentioned a good point here with the socials. We have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/, two players, one game podcast. And then you can find us there. You can search up two players, one game podcast. Or you can look us up on Spotify under the same name as well. We are looking into going into Spreaker at some point when we can figure that out. But we're going to try to kind of put our feelers out there and try to branch out to other different kinds of socials out there. So, with that said, you guys are here for the Star Fox 64 episode. So, let's tell you guys all about Star Fox 64. I'm so pumped about this. It has been a, like I said before, a nostalgic and yet heartwarming feeling for me about this game. So, the Lylat system has been invaded. You can take control of the Arwing, which is kind of like the airplane that they fly, the fighter jet, and you can skim through the surface of alien seas and weave through concrete canyons and dodge planetoids, asteroids the size of mountains, and a fast-paced combat action and all that stuff. Star Fox 64 was a rail gun shooter, which means like you play through it, you just zap zap zap, and it gets you takes you through the course and everything like that. So that's what that means. Star Fox 64 was released on April 27th, 1997 for the N64 console. Man, I could tell you I was 4 years old when the game came out, and
I was about 3.
you were about 3. Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, like I was 4 at the time, and I remember getting this game. A few years afterwards. But anyways, yeah, it's a 3D rail shooter, and it was known in Australia. This is the interesting about this. I've never known this before, but as we were doing our research in Australia and in some other regions, Star Fox 64 was known as Lylat Wars. And it was just because of like trademark issues. Like that's like the interesting thing. Like like the laws and like everything like that around a certain game, like like titles. Like I think about it all the time, and it's just like there's definitely some games out there that like they had to rebrand their name for copyright issues, and it's kind of silly, But yeah, the game involves the main character who is named Fox McCloud. I think that's such a BA name right there, Fox McCloud. Like, how many people have the last name McCloud? That's a cool last name, McCloud.
It
comes
like
out
one
the
of those
tongue,
names,
right? It comes out the tongue, right? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. And I was just gonna say, like, it sounds like a name you'd hear definitely in like an 80s or 90s action movie.
Right.
And I just want to go back and touch back on this real quick with the whole Lylat Wars. I think how I heard or how I found out about Fox having that name in other regions was when in like the earlier days of YouTube, when Let's Play channels were really and we have the ability to watch videos from people from all across the world.
Right.
That's when I've realized that, it was called Lylat Wars in some places.
Right, and it's just like I said, there were like different games out there that had to rebrand their name just because of that. But yeah, no. And anyways, the main character's name, Fox McCloud, and his crewmates, Falco, he's a falcon, Slippy the toad, and Peppy the hare. And they fight off against the evil Andross, who is like this big ape overlord that is like, the ruler of all the galaxies and all that stuff. And I didn't know this either. I think it's really cool, but it was listed as the 45th greatest game of all time by Guinness World Records in 2009. And today you can definitely play this game through the Nintendo Switch shop and all that stuff. Like you can buy the N64 emulator, which you have to spend money on that once a year. Me and Jake do. We pay once a year to play these games and all that stuff because we love retro gaming. You can play that. Though. Yeah. Like you can play that. You can pay through a Nintendo Switch. Well, gosh, I can't speak tonight. Nintendo Switch emulator subscription and all that stuff. But yeah, no, like I said, like there's been like I think it's one of the greatest games of all time. I'm not gonna lie. It was definitely one of my favorites growing up, and how I discovered Star Fox 64 was that in 2000 I got an N64 for my birthday, and here's the silly thing that everybody, if you're listening to this and you are a pure millennial or like Gen, what's the millennial, Gen Z, right? About like that, right?
Gen Z, yeah, like the tail end
the
of the
millennial,
the 90s,
yeah, the tail end of the 90s, yeah. Okay, like I don't know what you guys are doing in the 90s. Maybe you have not existed yet. Maybe you were kids like us when we were in the 90s. Maybe you were just in middle school or high school or elementary school when you were doing that, when you were growing up in the 90s. But there's this thing called Hollywood Video. And like,
I remember that.
And so there was Hollywood Video and Blockbuster, right? And those were like the two bigger staple um video renting services. Like there's Redbox nowadays and like Netflix and everything like that. Like there's that, but like back then there was just Hollywood Video and Blockbuster, and you had to go there in person. You had to pay for a subscription for a rental, and you would take the video game home, or you would take the movie home. And
Yes.
they did that with N64 games, which I thought was really interesting. Like, and this was when this was about like 2000, 2001, about like that. But like, I got my first ever allowance money at like $10 when I was in, I think, first grade and all that stuff. And like, I rented Star Fox 64 for the week for $10. It was like from my allowance, right? And then like every single time I got home from school and I did my homework, I would play this game religiously to get to the last level. Then like it was just time for me to take it back to Hollywood. I just felt so sad because I wanted to try to get to the other planets, like the hard planets. I only was able to get through the good planet, like the easy planets and all that stuff. Never really got to the hard planets until I got older. And you know, it makes sense. I was like a 7-year-old kid that didn't know the, you know, I didn't even know how to play a video game properly and all that stuff. But like, you know, throughout my life, I would go back to this game. I would always go back to this game because for me, it felt like a game that I could use to cope, and I could grind out as many hours. And in fact, I think I have close to like maybe 5,000 hours into the game lifetime, which is like a lot because you have to play it. I've been thinking about doing a speed run of the game because I think I can pull it off. I think I can pull off a speed run. I think that would be interesting. The record is I think 22 minutes. I think
Let me look.
yeah, no. I think it's 22 minutes. I think that's the best time. You like 22 minutes. I don't know. Yeah, fact check that for me. But like anyways, that's Goodman is fact checking that for me. Like I played this game throughout using, you know, stuff that you shouldn't be using. Don't be a criminal. Don't do the things that I did growing up.
22 minutes 11 seconds.
22 minutes. Oh, that's what I thought. 22 minutes 11 seconds. But like yeah, no, I did some really 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 bad things growing up. And that part of that was downloading emulators illegally
And letting Slippy Toad die.
No. But no. No, forget that Toad. Forget that. I hated. Hold on here. I hated Slippy Toad. Okay? I hated that stupid Toad. That guy had he was no help at all. Like, and the only help he had was like his ability, if you had him on your team for that level, was that you could at the end you have like the boss HP, and if you let Slippy die, then you don't get the boss HP gauge, all that stuff. He was only useful for that. Otherwise, he was just an annoying little Toad. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, and like there's one of the levels where like if Slippy gets knocked out, I believe one of the boss fights, it alternates the path to where it takes you to a different mission, which affects like how the game ends, which we're going to talk more about stuff like that here in a little bit with Star Fox 64.
Right.
But yeah. But with that being, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say like, I think if I remember correctly, this was my first technical shooter. Like technically, if you had to think about all these other different kinds of shooters, this was my first shooter. Like I
think it was mine also.
And I think that was like standard all around. Like, you know, and I think my first FPS shooter would have to be this game called SOCOM. It was like for the PS2 and all that stuff, but it was like very military kind of like stealth operation and all that stuff. But I think if you just took shooters and you just put them in a little space like that, I think this was my first technical shooter. So, and then there was GoldenEye. GoldenEye was my second one. And we'll probably talk about GoldenEye one day. But Jake, how did you find out about Star Fox 64?
Okay, so how I found out about Star Fox 64 is back in 2000. It was Christmas of 2000. We had just moved into a rental home at the time because we were getting ready to move into another house.
Mm-hmm.
I was 6 years old at the time. I never had my own gaming console before, but I had cousins who had the Nintendo 64 and the Super Nintendo. So
Ooh,
anytime I like go there to visit, like I'd always go, I'd want to play on those systems. So that Christmas of 2000, I ended up getting my very own Nintendo 64. And I think
dude.
that year, I got like 4 games for it on Christmas. One of them was Super Mario 64, which we're gonna
Oh yeah,
we
we're gonna be
already got a
talking about
script written out for
Super
that. We're
Mario
talking about that one.
64. Yeah.
Uh, a game called Rocket Robot on Wheels, which is made by the same company who made the Sly Cooper games.
Wait, what?
Um,
What was the name of the game again? What?
Rocket Robot on Wheels.
Rocket Robot on Wheels. What a what a title of a game. Oh my god.
It's it's a very interesting title. Then I got like a IndyCar racing game with it, but the fourth game that came with that was Star Fox 64.
Dude,
So
man of
I say the two
class.
game.
Man of class.
Yes.
Yeah. Man of class right there. Star Fox
Uh,
64. Woo.
yeah. So, anyways, I would probably say that Star Fox 64 and Mario 64 were the two games like I was going back and forth with at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was only, of course, 6 years old at the time, so I wasn't exactly sure what it was I was supposed to do. In fact, I think half the time I found myself shooting down Slippy Toad on purpose. That's where it
The
all
man of
began.
culture right here. Man of culture. That's what we like to hear. We like to hear about the Slippy Toad deaths. Okay, we don't respect
But
Slippy Toad around here.
But I just remember with Star Fox 64, I at the time, like I was really big into outer space stuff because anything that's like fantasy like that. So Star Fox was a game that was right up my alleyway. I
Right.
remember playing it, and it took me like a while over the years to just because as I was growing, learning more to figure out the game and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of my favorite things about Star Fox is ha- having a sort of ability to where there's more than one gameplay path that you can take.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of like what I was talking about. Like there's like an easy way, which is like usually like a blue path, and you follow that. And then there's like the medium, kind of like medium hard-ish levels, medium levels, and those were like labeled as yellow. And then like there were the hard levels, which were labeled in red and all that stuff. And I remember growing up, I just could not figure out how to get to all those other planets, like the hard planets, because I beat the game so many times going through the easy way. And then back then there was like the internet was not developed back then, so you could not go to Google and Google search Star Fox 64 walkthrough and all that stuff. You legit had to go and buy probably the manual for Star Fox 64 to be able to learn how to do it, or you just did it coincidentally. There was this one time though, there was this one level, it's the asteroid level. I think it's called Meteo, I think. It's like the planet after the first planet. I keep forgetting the name of the first planet. Wow. Conaria. There you go. But like it was like that asteroid level. And like how you so technically it's called a warp. It's called a warp planet and all that stuff. So basically you can take warps to go to like these other planets and all that stuff. You had to go and you had to twirl. You had to go through these rings that like would I know everybody like that's listening to this on Spotify. Sorry, but I'm like doing these like little action things with my hands and all that stuff. But basically, you would be spinning around on these like little, like I would say like these little spheres, right? And you had to go through these spheres, and if you hit all of them correctly, then you would technically warp to the next level, like to like a medium planet. And I think that was I think that was my appreciation of games like that. Like there were like you had to figure out on your own how to get to those other planets. And that was like my curiosity growing up because I would rent the game. I would either play the game at a friend's house because I didn't have any more money to go and buy the game, like rent the game from Blockbuster or Hollywood, right? And then I remember my dad and my mom would always complain like, Casey, that's like the same game. That's the freaking same game that you always get. What's your obsession with this game? And I was like, well, I want to figure out. I legit told my parents, I was like, there's like this hard level, and I'm trying to figure out how to reach those levels and all that stuff. And like for the longest time, it annoyed my mom so much because she would sit there. She would sit there and she would watch me play, and I would play like I would beat the level, right? But then I was just like, wait, this doesn't feel right. I want to try to get through that. So I would start the level all over again, the level that I just beat, by the way. And she got so mad. She got so mad that she took the game back to Blockbuster when I rented it the third time around, I think. The third time around, she took it back to Blockbuster and just got me a different game. I got so upset. I think that was like the first time I got so upset with my mom over a video game. But like, but yeah, no. What's really like what you said, Goodman? Like, you know, like there is like these different kind of levels that you can go through with Star Fox, and there's like I think a total of I'm trying to think of how many planets. I think there's like 12 planets. I think 12. It was either 12. It's like about 12 to 16 planets. I think. I keep forgetting the number. Maybe I think it was 16. But anyways, you had all these different planets that you can go through. And my goal growing up was not to beat the game, but to go through all these different planets because I thought that was I wanted to know. I was curious. And I think that's what sparked my curiosity and my appreciation for railgun shooters like that and the Star Fox series. And that's why I think, in my opinion, Star Fox 64 is like one of my top 10 games of all time. I could play that game for hours. Like I said, I put about 5,000 hours into that stupid game. Maybe one day I'll do a speed run over it. I just need to learn how to do the cool stuff that the people usually do.
Yeah, and I know like I've been talking about like playing old games and everything recently. I've thought about like I think what I'm gonna do is uh stream some of these older games, and I think Star Fox 64 because this is a game that I really want to go back and I love like going back to revisit this game
Right, right. You know, it's just
because
like
it's
that's the thing. It's just like to me, like it's like what I said before. It was just like nostalgia, right? And that's something that we have grown up with. That's the thing that we know best. And it's not like I'm not dissing all these new video games, but like sometimes it's just good to go back to the basics, you know?
it is. And you know, one thing that I also got to credit Star Fox 64 for doing, because when you a lot of the N64 games were like this. They were great at telling you, you know, which button you need to push uh to perform this maneuver or whatnot. Like it was really
Right.
good at being like straightforward about that. Uh like they would say like, hey, like you need to, you know, use the blaster roll say to like, you know, to punch the B button.
Right. Or like one of my do a barrel roll. And it
Yeah,
shows
the
you
barrel roll.
and then it shows you the buttons, the combo buttons that you had to press to do a barrel roll. Yeah. But
Which is
like
a little complicated on the Switch to do. Honestly, I tried it recently.
right. No, it's a little yeah, no, the emulator on the Switch is like very interesting. Like I want to play the game again. I want to play the game. Call me crazy. I want to play the game, but I want to have an actual N64 controller. I legit want to beat the game with like with the N64 controller. Cuz that's all I've ever known from that game. It's so weird playing it on a Switch controller. It is. But I mean like it's still the same thing, but it's just, you know, I guess more modern. I'm just so used to having an N64 controller in my hand. But okay, so like anyways, with Star Fox, there's like all these different modes. So like there's like point match that you can play, like, and these are all multiplayer games. And I remember having a vivid memory of me and my friends. We would play 4-player point match and battle royale. So like point match is just like, like, hey, the first player to reach a set total of wins, like it's just like a best of 5 battle royale, right? Like you can just go out and just, if you kill, like, you get the point and all this stuff. Battle royale is just kind of, that's just simple. And technically, Star Fox 64, I think that had to be my first battle royale game. I mean, not like mass multiplayer, but I mean like technically multiplayer. I mean, like you just had to kill, you had to shoot down all the other ships. But like I remember playing, I was in 3rd grade, and like I got invited to a friend's house for a sleepover and all that stuff, and my mom let me. My mom let me go, and he had this game for the N64. I remember we stood up practically all night long just playing battle royale. That was like one of my vivid memories growing up, is just being able to play this game for so many hours.
Dude, those nights growing up were honestly some of the best nights.
Right? No, like
Just
they don't make split screen multiplayer, games like that anymore. It's a special kind of genre, right? Like it's just like, I think growing up, games were so much, I don't want to say harder. I think mechanically hard. I don't know if mechanically hard is a good term for it, but just like I felt like it was more difficult to play a multiplayer game. Unlike nowadays, like nowadays you got keyboard and mouse and you got like an Xbox 360, Xbox controller, PlayStation controller, but like learning how to like freaking play with an N64 controller is just like, it's either you know it or you don't.
right, because nowadays we have an analog stick on our controllers, like what you said. Like like we have like PlayStation, Xbox controllers that have like a pretty smooth um why am I forgetting what it's called? Where it's like a much smoother control to use with the
I'm trying to remember
analog stick.
Oh
The
yeah, they
N64
made
analog
those.
stick was much different, to where it's like it was a little tougher to use, because it was like you basically just kind of, if you remember how like an N64 controller like felt when you were playing a game, like it kind of felt like you
Right,
could only go in like 8 different directions.
right.
So it was, I think it was just a little bit more. I agree with you. Games back then were probably just a little more mechanically challenged compared to what we have now.
Right. And I mean like that just shows like the development of like video games as a genre. I like, mechanically we had what, like it started off with Pong, obviously Atari, where it's just like a thing that you just spin back and forth, to like the NES, the Nintendo, the first Nintendo console, and then Super Nintendo, and then you got the N64. It was just like, you can definitely see the progress getting better and better. And but like, oh man, I totally forgot about this. But like, there was this cool thing about the N64 controllers. You can get what's called a rumble pack,
Mhm.
and it provides pretty much like vibration to the game's action. So like if you got shot, then if you got shot, or if you like ran into an asteroid, it would have force feedback on your controller, and so it would feel like you actually took damage.
And
But
Star Fox came with the Rumble Pack.
yeah, Star Fox definitely came with a rumble pack, but they wouldn't let you take it if you were renting and all that stuff. Like you had to actually buy the game to get the rumble pack. If you rented it from like Hollywood or Blockbuster, it just didn't come with a rumble pack. But what's cool about Star Fox 64 is that you not only get to play with an Arwing, but you get to play like as a submersible blue marine submarine, and a landmaster tank and all that stuff, and you have to go into these certain planets to play them. And like I said, it wasn't until I got older that I figured out and learned how to get to every other planet. And so it was just like, like I felt so much joy playing the Blue Marine submersible, and there was the planet's called Aquas, and pretty much you went through it, and in the very end you face this very big clam monster that has been polluted. And this is what I realized playing the game. I realized they talk so much about pollution in the games. And it's so funny because it's just like I could definitely see the times of that back then, because during that time, I mean, like, culturally around the world, I mean, we were going through a pollution crisis back then. And so, like, I think it was just also a way for people, for, like, video games to put in, like, hey, pollution's bad. Pollution's bad. This is what we're going to do. We're going to blow this stuff up so that way we can prevent pollution from destroying the planet and all that stuff. Which I thought was really, was really cool, because I'm very big, environmentalist and all that stuff. But yeah, no. I mean, like, this game, it has a special place in my heart. Let's just say that. A very special place in my heart. And
I think it's one of those games that I have a special place in my heart for it as well. Like, I haven't played it as much recently as other N64 titles that I grew up with, but it's one of those that I would put it on a top 5 list.
Right. Yeah, it would technically, yeah, for me, like I said, it would be definitely top 10. I think the hardest battle I've had to do in that game was facing Andross, but in the hard path. The easy path was like easy. You just pretty much, he's just a floating ape head and all that stuff with levitating hands. But on the hard level, like, it's the same thing. You shoot, you kill Andross and all that stuff. But in the hard mode, it's revealed that his true form is an actual brain. And, like, I remember this happened, like, maybe about I'm 29. When I was 20, so 9 years ago, when I first played the hard mode. Yeah, I know, it's like pathetic, but, like, yeah, when I first played the hard mode for the game, I would spend so much time trying to beat Andross on hard level, and it was so hard. For me, it was, because it was totally new, and I didn't know what to do. But I think that was the hardest fight, and I think that was my favorite fight too. I think the soundtrack was amazing. Excuse me, for that level. What about you, Jake? What was a memorable memory of of any levels or anything like that in the game?
If I had to say anything memorable for the game, definitely early on, I forget the boss's name, but the boss that you face in the asteroid field level, the other I forget his name, but
It's like
for
the
some reason
robot?
I always just, for some reason, every time I've always thought of, like, Star Fox, like, that character just randomly pops up into my head.
Dude, I'm surprised you didn't say Star Wolf. That's a close second for me too. Star
Yeah,
Wolf.
Star Wolf is a close second too, but just some of the weird encounters that you have, like, early on as well. Um, what I wanted to say with the boss fight with Andross.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you defeat the hard mode boss fight of the game, you are granted with a pretty interesting reward where you basically have to escape before the entire, like, place explodes.
Oh yeah.
What is super cool about this is that you're basically having the spirit of Fox's dad guiding you out of there.
Yeah.
Like, it is such a nice touch. It is such a nice touch. Makes it a great ending.
I know, it was like like I agree. It was like really satisfying to see that ending and all that stuff, because remember, like, his father, Fox's father, did not make it out out of Venom, which is the enemy planet where Andross is at. He didn't make it out of Venom, but Peppy did, and like Pigma Dangar, Pigma Dangar. Oh God,
Take mine
he
those sunglasses of his.
yeah he betrayed him, and he joined Star Wolf and all that stuff. But like, but like yeah, no, it's just like like that was a very satisfying ending for that. I really appreciated. I really appreciated the game doing that because there was like definitely different Star Fox games for the Super, but they came out for Super Nintendo and all that stuff, and so like like, what's really interesting was that they had a third Star Fox game, which was originally this game, Star Fox 64. But since the Nintendo 64 was coming out, they kind of shut down that project right away. So I thought that was like very interesting to just kind of listen to. Like it was just very intriguing, I guess. Very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, and I also kind of forget that in the early 2010s, I believe it was 2011,
Mm-hmm.
that Star Fox 64 had a remake on the Nintendo 3DS, which I'm not gonna lie, I came close to buying it at one point, but this was right before Star Fox 64 was, I believe, he was up on the Wii U shop
Right?
for
No, it was up in the Wii U.
emulator.
Yeah, yeah, it was up for that. I remember that. I I personally, yeah, no, like Star Fox 60. It was called Star Fox 64, and it was just pretty much the remake, but it was on the 3DS. I think. I think it was on the 3DS.
Yeah, because there was a couple other remakes on the 3DS too, like the Zelda Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. So they
Right.
just all the remakes pretty much went by the same name, but with just like the DS or 3DS like at the end. So, but
Right.
yeah, that's one thing about that's another thing
Yeah, that's
about Star
another
Fox
thing for a
64.
different that's another thing for a different day for sure. Um but like yeah. Well, I mean, like, here's the deal, and we're gonna kind of wrap things up here. But like, like again, like Star Fox 64, the recap, it just has a special place in my heart. It was my first ever shooter. It was definitely my. I never. That's the thing. I never owned the game. Never have ever owned the game, and I think that game in particular was what got me to be in love with gaming. I'm gonna be real. I think that was the game that got me in love with gaming. Um,
I think, and I think that's the game that kind of got me hooked onto games where we fly, where you can just like fly around and shoot targets like the rail shooter
right,
style of game.
yeah, no, no, exactly, exactly. That's it. And it's just like I can't describe. That's the thing. I can't describe it, but it's just something about that game that wants you to keep going back for more. Like I remember, I would beat the game already, and then like I had this urge to play it again because I think it's one of those things that like nostalgia factor, like you got so absorbed into this game and you've really wanted to play it, and like you beat it, and then you want to go and try to get to the other harder planets, and then you want to go like do this and do that. It was just like, for me, that's where my 5,000 hours of gaming in that particular game, like I was absorbed, and I was playing that religiously growing up, even though I've beaten it so many times. Like it's just like, it's definitely top 10 games of all time for me. Um, but yeah. Oh, what about you, Jake?
Would definitely put it on like I would definitely put it on a top 15 list.
Mm-hmm.
Um because it's a game that I again thoroughly enjoy playing, and I've actually had the urge here lately to go through another playthrough of it because I kind of want to challenge myself finding out, getting onto the different paths to unlock the
Right.
game. Because when it comes to like old school N64 games that I grew up playing,
Mm-hmm.
I love to kind of complete as much things as possible, which
Oh
is a
yeah,
real
no.
struggle with games like Donkey Kong 64. But for Star Fox, like I want to be able to go through and get like all the pathways cleared and everything.
Right.
Because just getting like a true ending in a video game,
It's like
like yeah,
satisfying, right?
it's
Like
yeah, very
you
satisfying.
want to be able to be able to say, "Hey, I beat this game." And I beat it throughout all these levels, and I can tell you like my favorite planet and all that stuff, right? Like literally that's like to me that's like a game that that's what really hits, right? And I know there's like there's definitely some criticism with the game. Okay, I'm not saying that the game was perfect, but like obviously we don't do rail shooters anymore. Obviously, like times have changed where like combat has changed and everything like that. Button combinations were not there, and sometimes it would just glitch out. Sometimes it would just glitch out and everything like that. But what game is that perfect though? You know, like I feel like some of the negative connotations that it has were just complaints that could be easily just you sweat it off kind of thing, right?
Right, and like the more you play the game, the more you practice, you're gonna figure out like ways around that and everything.
Right. And so like, that's why I just like, with the criticisms of the game, I just tried to not think about the criticisms at all kind of thing, right? Like and then you can call me biased. You can call me like blinded by it, but I mean it's just like I think what makes it my favorite game, one of my favorite games of all time was like I said, the nostalgia factor. And that's what, like I said, that's what made it really special for me, It's just, so it's one of those games, like I said, that just hits you right in the feels. And the thing is that there's no emotional attachment. I mean, like, there's no like relationship. Well, I mean, like, like there's no like main female protagonist, female lead or anything like that. It's just like four buddies going out on a space adventure to try to save the universe. Simple, simple
Yeah,
like that.
and I like simple stories like that where it's just kind of something different besides saving a princess or whatever.
Right.
Like it's just good buddies doing good things.
Exactly. Well, to kind of end it off here, my name is Stratabyte, and all that stuff, and this is Jake the Good Man. You can follow us on our socials, but we are planning on trying to release this episode on both Spotify and oh my god. Also,
Thank you,
I keep forgetting that we're streaming this on Twitch. So like whatever you're hearing right now is what I should have turned that off. It's okay. We can cut. I just have to remember I have to cut this part. I got to cut this part out of the video. I don't know. Do you think I'm going to get no Big Chungus? Big Chungus is not a
I don't think we should get DMC'd for it.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Well, so like anyways, we stream these podcasts live and we record it live on Twitch on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Stratabyte. You can follow us on our socials, Stratabyte, at Stratabyte, at Jake the Good Man, and we're planning on trying to do episodes once a week. And so we're going to try to aim for Saturdays for the recording as you're listening. And if you're listening to the past episodes and all that stuff, just make sure you follow our socials. We'll usually post something about that there. If you want to participate in the live recordings, you can just come on Saturday sometime and all that stuff. And I'm usually live on Twitch and everything like that. A good thing is joining my Discord server on my Twitch channel to get updates, because I've been posting updates about the podcast and all that stuff. Definitely it will be available on YouTube and on Spotify. And like I said, we're trying to get things with Spreaker worked up and all that stuff. So yeah. Anyways, I think next week next week's episode will be exciting because we're going to go, again, nostalgia factor. We're going to be talking about Super Mario 64. Another
I
game.
cannot wait to talk about this game.
Another game that has that literally has engulfed my life. I hate that game and I love that game at the same time that I hate it. So catch us next week talking about that because I'm going to definitely rant so much about that game. It frustrated me so much and I'm holding on to that so much until next week. So with that said, thank you so much for listening to this episode. We have one more episode out and everything like that on Spotify, which we talked about Sea of Thieves. So if you want to listen to that episode, go ahead and listen to that episode on Spotify. We will probably get things out of here on Saturday, sometime this weekend. So, okay.
Could I put a link to the Spotify in the chat or?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Like I said, usually we will read off Twitch chat. Like, for example, my friend Kevin, he put this LaMayo. I waited so long for that soundbite. Hey, gonna be a great episode. Well, it's gonna be a great episode. Yeah, Kevin. He made his feature here. So he'll get to listen to that troll forever on Spotify. Well, anyways, guys, Jake's gonna link it in the chat. We will catch you guys on the next episode of Two Players One Game podcast. And if you're looking at the YouTube video, hope you guys enjoyed the new logo. We paid somebody so much to make the logo, and we're really happy about it. So, okay, well, Jake, let's you want to sign us off here?
Yes, I will sign us off here. So we want to thank everyone for stopping by, listening to this episode, whether it's live here on Twitch or sometime in the future, the next few days or 30 years, whatever, over on Spotify or elsewhere. And guys, also, we've got quite a few episodes planned out already, and we're going to be working on getting more websites or more
content out there for you guys.
Yeah, more content out there for our podcast episodes. And guys, if you guys want us to talk about, have any video games you want to recommend to us, feel free to let us know because that's what we want to do. We want to also give you guys, of course, content that you guys would want us to discuss. Maybe you got a game that you grew up with that maybe we might have played. So, we'd love to get some recommendations from y'all as well.
Right.
And I'm working on trying to get the Spotify, by the way.
No, you're good. Okay. Anyways, guys, as like what we said, take care of yourselves, stay hydrated, much love, and we'll see you guys on the next episode when we talk about Super Mario 64.